All right, I will call the meeting to order. Would you note the time, Mr. Secretary?
Yep, 6:18.
Thank you. And take the roll.
Got it.
Okay. Item is the agenda for tonight's meeting, which is changed a number of times up until tonight, but I think everybody should have the final one. Got a note from Mr. Oni indicating that he wanted to remove 4F from the discussion. Is that correct, Mr. Oni?
No, to move something that wasn't quite what I had said, but to move it to 3B. I would be asking to form a subcommittee to study the hospital as opposed to just plow ahead and do it. So, but it's definitely 4F can be deleted.
Okay, we can delete 4F and we can take care of that as, I'm sorry, we can take care of that as part of 3B then?
Yes.
Okay. Any objection to that?
No.
Okay. And that's what we'll do. We'll proceed with 4F eliminated and have that discussion as part of 3B. Subject to that change, is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second. All those in favor? Any other discussion? Excuse me. Yes.
No discussion. I was approving.
Okay. Yeah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We'll say no. Very good. The agenda is approved. Everyone get the minutes from the September 23rd meeting. And would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. First, a question though. There was going to be a change in terms of some wording on those minutes. Did that ever get done?
My understanding was that it was the July minutes. That's at least what I recall.
Correct. Yeah.
That was done.
It was done. Okay, very good. Just wanted to make sure that was the case. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the September 23rd meeting. So moved. Is there a second?
Moved.
They moved in second. Any discussion? Good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Both say no. All right, great. The minutes are approved. I'd like, on behalf of myself and hopefully the commission as well, to welcome our newest member, Jack Hoschauer. Did I say that right, Jack? Is it Hoschauer?
You said it right. Yep.
Very good. Well, welcome to our commission. We're glad to have you aboard.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm sorry it's such a hassle getting checked in. I'll check with Ben before the next meeting and make sure I'm fixed here.
Very good. Very good. All right. We'll move then to old business. The proposed section 3.8 charter amendment, and just very briefly for background for Jack's sake, the Charter Commission has spent some time working on section 3.8 of the charter, which references specifically the portion that references the power of the mayor, and we made a couple of runs at it and presented an amendment to the council a couple of times, and we're not successful in getting it passed. At the last meeting, our discussion was that we would wait until after the election to revisit this. So I want to do that right now. The provisions that we dealt with in section 3.8 deal with oversight power or duties of the mayor, depending on how that section is interpreted. At this point, my feeling is that I would still like us to do something with this section, even if that is to eliminate it. We have the option to, I suppose, present the referendum or the motion that we passed as a referendum. There's also the option to delete the provision, I suppose, or make another run at it, etc. And so what I'm going to suggest on this is that since this was kind of my tasks to begin with, and I was working with Peter Swift, who is no longer on the commission, I guess I would like to take at least another run at this in terms of having a small committee to look at this, which I would be happy to be a part, and then make a recommendation, a general recommendation to the commission as to whether what additional action, if any, we want to take on this. We have some new members now, and now that we know the results of the election, we're working with the same member, Rhonda Pownell, who is very familiar with what we've been trying to do on this issue. So I guess I would look for one other volunteer to work with me to take a look at this and review the history and see what, if any, action the commission we believe should take or any recommendations we could make on that. Because one way or another, I'd like to deal with this and put it to rest. So I have a volunteer to work with me on.
Well, I'll work with you because I think that this could work in with what we've talked about in the past about working with the city council to have either work sessions or something to discuss them, you know, to discuss things that, like, if the committee comes up with suggestions. I know I was in, you know, there when we first talked about the one thing that we were going to put in was to have this report done by December every year. And then it expanded from there. So I had been involved in the very beginning of looking at this. And this is one of the things that we possibly could use some discussion with. And so that sort of fits in with some of the other things that I'm thinking about for the education committee.
Yeah.
One other person would be great. I mean, not just me. I think it'd be
Yeah, if
good.
anyone else is interested, please so indicate. Be glad to work with you on that, though, Judy. Thank you.
Well, as the new guy, I'll take a shot at it.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. That'd be a good introduction for you. And it would also give you some background on our history with this issue. So that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right.
Lance, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you remember what the who the votes were in opposition to the amendment or not?
Yes, I do. I wish I could forget. No, I do. It was the opposition was Jessica Peterson White, Susie Nakassian, and Erica Zweifel.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Moving on to B under the old business, the proposed amendment to section 14 and the work between the city and the hospital on with the joint committee. And so I would turn that over to you, CC, for an update.
Well, I'll take a couple of minutes, Lance, if it's okay, to give Jack a little bit of a background on where this is coming from. In the charter, Jack, there is a section that defines what the reserved powers are for the hospital board, and for the mayor in particular has some reserved powers. And so we were looking to come up with a document that would clarify what those reserved powers actually mean and look like, both in breadth and in depth. So we have been working for quite a while. Jack, the city has hired a great facilitator who has come in. There are 4 representatives from the hospital board, 4 representatives from the city, and the work has been grueling. There is a lot in this playbook. It's quite a document. I have to say I'm really proud to have been working on it with all of these people because people are taking it very seriously. We have 1 meeting left, and the hope is to not have any major revisions and additions at this last meeting, so that we can get it to both the city council and the hospital board in the early part of next year. And my opinion is that the relationship described in the charter is now stronger through clarity and joint empathy. than ever before. And I really want to talk about that joint empathy, because I think that was one of the things that has come out, has been just a deep understanding of the care and concern and responsibilities of each of the groups. You know, communication, can you ever have too much? And we've been probably, Ben, I think, would you say we've had easily 20 hours of meetings, and then we have sizable tasks outside of that. So going into the final stage, round in third base, and hopefully we can get it to the hospital board and the city council, as I said, to repeat myself, but just to let you know, one meeting left, and then we're hoping to come to both groups at the beginning of next year sometime.
Okay, thank you, CC. Would that report be available to this commission as well?
After it's, yes. I mean, not now, because it's
No,
not
no, when it's completed.
it'll be a public document, Lance, of course.
Any this other discussion with regard to this matter? A little bit of audio interference there. Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discussion for the, just what Cece was saying, or the hospital, section 14 in general?
Yeah, I think this is where we indicated that.
Okay,
that
good.
conversation would be appropriate.
Yeah, I just think before the Charter Commission goes ahead and makes any changes, we should really figure out what the relationship, even so basic, the hospital board to the hospital, which I know I tried to pin some of that down, you know, back when Schlichting was on the commission, and either I didn't understand it or he didn't say, but I couldn't really tell what they were. I mean, to start over, I mean, it's a substantial asset that the people of the city own, and he apparently didn't like that it was based on political appointments, and I think we're still continuing with that, but I can't even tell if that's the objection anymore or why we're discussing it. So maybe try to pin down what exactly they're doing now and what they want. And probably not by asking, because I already have and it's not forthcoming. So maybe we should form a small committee. I would work on it. You know, I would hope one or two other people would be curious enough to really try to pin down, like, who's there now, what they want to accomplish, and what they don't like about how it's been done so far.
Pat, I'm sorry, you were cutting out, so I don't know that I heard everything that you said, but I think that this document that that you're going to see after the hospital board or city council approve it, I think that you will find that a very valuable resource. And I'm sorry.
I'm sure I will.
And I'm sorry you didn't get the information that you needed. So in the future, please feel free to ask me on any questions on that, and I will do everything I can. I think one thing I also might like to recommend is I can let you know when the hospital board will be having that open meeting discussion on it, and when the council will be having the open meeting discussion on it, because that might give you some good background information too. So I can keep.
True, but it's actually off topic for the thing that I brought up just now. So.
Oh, sorry, because I'm okay. So tell me, I'm sorry, because you're kind of cutting out. So tell me then your question, please.
I'm just wondering if anybody but me is curious about what's going on and how the hospital is structured to begin with. Like I've looked at as much as I can see of the budget, which is, you know, should be fairly transparent because of the type of organization it is. It looks almost like there are two different boards running it.
Well, I think that sitting in on some discussions, seeing that document might help you know what kinds of questions will take you further towards your answer. Those are the only resources
Did
I-
anybody else
Yeah.
understand my proposal, or was it too vague?
Well, just a little bit of, my recollection is that when James brought it up, his recommendation was that the hospital board should be elected and selected by the hospital board. And I
Yeah.
recall what we had the discussion on. And I don't think we ever came to an agreement that anybody on the commission agreed that we should push that through. So that's the last that I remember from it. And I know they, two former commission members and you presented a piece of paper, the recommendations, but I don't recall that we ever approved that. My recollection, when CC got on the commission, we were saying we now have somebody that's both on the hospital board and the commission, and maybe get more information and have further discussion and see what they're going to do. I don't know if that's what's going to happen with that is going to resolve what I thought I heard the discussion from the two previous members of the commission who just wanted it to be strictly business, strictly hospital board, appoint hospital board. But we had a lot of discussion about that time. Are you saying you want that discussed again now, or wait until they do that? Or I'm not sure, Scott, what you're requesting.
Just to try to figure out how it's structured and what exactly. I don't know either. I mean, I would like to look into it and find out before we vote on anything to do with it. My understanding is that this whole discussion is still about whether the hospital board gets to pick their replacements or not. And if it's morphed somewhere along the way, I've missed it, even though I listened to the tapes of the meetings after every one. I think we're still discussing that. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't.
I'm sorry. Scott, I think my understanding is that it is still a central issue in terms of the appointment process. That is what got us into this. But my sense is, and correct me if I'm not understanding you, is that what you're talking about is a broader type of approach. But it does seem to me that since we're waiting on the report from this joint committee anyway, it seems to me that that might shape our opinions on anything else we conclude with regard to the hospital. And so if I could suggest that we wait until that report comes out, and it sounds like it'll be relatively soon, maybe even before our next meeting, that we wait before we designate a committee, just so we're clear on what the committee would be doing and what information we have based on the report that's coming out. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion based on either Scott or CC's comments on that item? Very good. Thank you both for that input, and you as well, Judy. So let's move now to the policy on absences from Charter Commission meetings. Judy, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I did prepare kind of a report and send it to you, and I'm kind of working with that report, and I'm just going to go through part of it right now. At the last meeting, we did, it's part of the minutes that we did talk about the importance of what are unexcused absences. And I guess because we get new members, and this year we've had 3 new members since January. And so and we all know that it's important for them to know what the discussions have been about absences and unexcused, whether they're excused or unexcused, and what at this point we have the commission has done. Now, to my knowledge, we don't put anything in writing in a new orientation packet. To my knowledge, we don't. That's something that later I will be recommending, but I just want to clarify that, make sure that our new members know the excused and unexcused absences are, and In the past, it was my understanding that we made some decisions that to be excused, all you needed to do was call the, and that was one of the things. And if you don't call the chair and it's unexcused, for 3 unexcused absences, there will be a written notice from the secretary to you, you've missed 3. And then if it goes to 4 unexcused absences, then the secretary writes a letter to the judge for the statute. That person is removed from the commission. So I think that's a very important thing for new members to know how important it is to make sure your absence from the meeting is approved, is excused, and the what that means. And to me, these are things, some of these things I think need to be in some sort of written form that people know what some of the procedures are when they come onto the commission. And as I started looking at this, and so I sent the one report on the absence report, and I put a big long list of things because I started thinking about this, and I thought, well, there are many things I know. When I came on the commission, it was how is it governed? You know, what are our rules? How do we, do we go by Robert's rules? Has that been determined? How do we determine the dates and times? Do we have a discussion every time we have new people on? And then, so I made this long list of things, and I guess I would like to, and some of you saw those, I won't read them into the minutes, but I would like to kind of refer this list to the education committee to consider on when they're looking at education. And education, one of the first things the education committee is recommending is education of the commission. So rather than go through this long list and discuss this at this meeting, I kind of like to weave that into and remove that on over to the education committee to be looked at, and then maybe several people look at it and in a committee and say, well, these are things that would be good to know, to have written down on, this is how we do things. And if we think, well, no, we don't need to do that, that's fine, but it's something to look at. So as part of this report, the main thing was making sure that all new commission members know how important it is to get an excused absence from a meeting. And then also that this list of things that was sent to you in the report go over to the education committee. I don't know if I need a motion or to make a motion, or if you just accept that will be this. There won't be another meeting of the excused absences part of the agenda. This will be moved into the education committee. What do you think, Mr. Chair?
Well, and just first of all, thanks for that report, Judy. It's really thorough and I think helpful. Just for the edification of everybody, what I have done up till now, and this is just informally, and I don't even know what other chairs have done, but I try to provide the new members with a copy of the charter, the Minnesota statutes that pertain to charter. I think I also tried to provide a couple of years worth of minutes so people have an idea of what we've talked about during the last couple of years. And then I think also I included the code of ethics that's part of the city ordinances. But I can tell you, I think it's a great idea that we have a formalized orientation packet that we all know what's in it. And I think some of the things that you have on your list would be great things to include. And so just as a chair in welcoming additional new members, I would love to see a more specific and detailed orientation packet that has input from everybody. So I think the idea of having a committee put together a packet like that and get feedback from the rest of us concerning what is appropriate and helpful to include in it is a great idea. So that's my thought on it, and I'll entertain discussion from the rest of you.
I particularly like to ask the newer people, because when I came on the commission prior to you being the chair, I didn't learn any of that. It just went piecemeal. So yes, I got copies of things. So I came on before you were the chair. But if other newer people think, yeah, that would be a good idea too. That would be great. And anybody willing, I think it'd be good to maybe have a new person on there as well as this old one here.
Judy, are you reforming the committee when you say you're the only one? Do you want to?
Oh, no, you. No, but I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, you, I'm pointing to
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted it reformed. I thought maybe
No,
because you got a
no,
different
but
task now, you might
other
want to
people-
group.
I think there should be other people than you and I, Cece. I think we should have more input.
We can have
You
one
and
more.
I are at Education Committee and we need input. We don't want just the two of us to go through this list. We want other people to have to help with some of the work of maybe going through this list.
Just to note, in order to not violate the open meeting law, the committee can't be more than 3 people. So just so you know that.
One more. Okay. Any volunteers?
I'll do it with fear and trepidation because it looks
All
like a lot
right.
of work, but
Thanks, Jim.
yeah.
Very good.
Perfect.
All right. And so that would be the end of my report on item C.
Wonderful. All right, any other comments, discussion, or questions with regard to Judy's report?
On item C. Yeah.
On item C, hearing none, let's go to item D, the charter education, and that's both Judy and Cece, and I'll let one of you make your presentation at this time.
Well, I'll continue and then CC can add.
Still celebrating. We didn't get details on that celebration today, did we?
No, it was strictly, don't worry about it. Yep. At the last meeting, we established this education committee. And so we looked at, in the report, when Cece and I talked, we considered 3 entities that would benefit from education. They would be the Charter Commission, the City Council, and the Northfield citizens. And we have attempted to be positive, proactive, and not negative, reactive in our recommendations. And we have some things that are listed that we could have charter commissions. And I won't read, you all saw this, so I'm not going to read through this, but we would like to include these things plus the list from the previous, or is the education committee going to be 3 people? And that's Jim now too. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't have anything to alcohol at all today, so I'm hanging in there. Okay, anyway, not that I need it or even do it. Anyway, there, I keep rattling on. You'd think okay. Anyway, this committee, I'm now recommending that the education committee that's been established incorporates the things that were moved over from the previous meeting and the listed here, in addition to things they might add, to study what we can, what education things might benefit the Charter Commission. Also, recommend ways to work with the City Council. Then in the past, on a couple of our meetings, we have talked about having work sessions with members of the City Council, either in small groups or other groups, to discuss some of the things that we've talked about so that we could come to something they're trying to do. But that's one thing, possibility that we could consider when this committee is meeting. And also the Northfield citizens. We've talked about this at past meetings about, we talked about, I think someone mentioned that there had been some in the past, something on the radio about it, something in the newspapers. And by the way, I want to thank CC who, unbeknownst to, disconnected it all from the Charter Commission. I don't know if any of you all read the paper yesterday, but she was at a book club apparently, and they started talking about the charter. So they came up, she and somebody else came up with something, they put in letters to the paper. And that's a sort of education, the type of thing that we could look at. And then the other thing I put, possibly approach the schools or the colleges. How much are there classes at college that talks about charter commissions and the way of governance? Anyway, I think that there's many things that we can explore in this education committee. So if I'll answer any questions or suggestions, but my final thing would be, you know, to request or make a motion or something to accept this report and establish, which we've already done, this committee that moves forward with some of these ideas. CC, do you have something to add? Because you were on the committee with me. No? Okay.
All right, thank you, Judy. Any discussion? And I guess I would be looking specifically for how it is that you would envision us implementing some of the suggestions on the report.
I don't have any ideas now,
Okay.
but that's something I think that the committee could discuss. Did you have anything, you mean like the Charter Commission? And we would want input from the Charter Commission about what things that they feel that we need to do, and then we would help working with whatever we need to do to provide that education. And then, I don't know, how do we work with the city council? I'm not sure about that. If that's something that the committee would need to talk to someone from the city about, would you be willing to talk to us about if this is a good idea, possibility, or forget it, or whatever? That so I don't. Do you have specific questions or other people have? I've been doing a lot of talking here. Did that answer your question at all, Lance?
Well, yes, and I guess I mean, a lot of these are great ideas, and it strikes me though that we may want to break it down a bit, just in terms of tackling perhaps one section at a time, whether that's public education or working with the city council or educating the charter members themselves, so that, you know, we have some manageable goals that we can address sort of piecemeal, and then come up with specific things and implement those recommendations, and like making arrangements to go to the schools, assuming there's anyone in them, to educate and you know, make practical suggestions about how we actually implement this. So I see this committee as being ongoing, but I mean, we have people working on the orientation type committee, and taking this on as well might be a lot for one committee to chew on. So I'm wondering if there are others who might be interested in working on this part of it, the education part of it.
Well, I'll work on it with whoever else wants to be on there with me, because I mean, I started and yeah, my idea in answer to a little bit of your question was the committee looks at all these, decides which they want to tackle first, and you know, you have this ongoing agenda as to which we tackle first and make recommendations, and then what do we tackle next. So,
Judy, I don't know that I understand the difference between the two groups. So when I'm on the committee for C, I was assuming that that was part of the job for the Charter Education Committee. Are they separate committees?
They aren't at this time, CC, you're right.
Oh, okay, then I may go back. I think I'm only going to work on one of them, because you're right, Lance, those are big. They're big lifts.
okay, so do we want to, is anybody else interested in working on recommendations for education? You know, whether it's charter, city, is anybody else interested in that topic?
You know, to me, there seems to be so much overlap between them. You know, I guess maybe going back to what I think I heard Judy say is that why don't we toss them both into one committee and let the committee take responsibility for what seems to be a reasonable first step and take it from there.
I agree, because I don't see a difference here. So many of the topics could meet both C and D. I agree. What do you?
I think that because, and we're not going to do them all at once. There's no way. I think we look at it, and if something little comes up, if we're talking about doing the packet, and then all of a sudden something comes up and say this would be a good thing to send an article to the newspaper about, there's no reason we can't do something like that. But like you just said, Lance, schools are way in the background because they don't even have classes now. I mean, they do virtually, but anyway.
Okay. So the committee is comfortable taking this on, those two areas, and then you guys can parse out what you want to tackle and do it in a manner that makes sense to you. And I think that's great.
Yeah, and then, yeah, no, when Cece and I worked on this before, we just did it on, what did we do? We did it on this or on the phone. We did something where we were looking at each other's pictures. I'm sorry, I am not computer, all this stuff literate, but I'm working on it. So.
Thank you. Any other comments on the items C or D from any other members? All right, great. I think we accomplished a lot there. We'll move on to new business. And we need to discuss meeting times for our commission, and need to arrive at an understanding among all of us about how we set meeting times and when and how we do that. So, Cece, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you comment on.
Well, thank you. I brought this up at my first meeting, which was last May, and told you about my conflict, which also had been mentioned in my application to the judge when I applied for the Charter Commission. So what I was wondering is, the discussion that we had in May was pretty loose, so I thought maybe now, as we're looking at a brand new year and we've got 3 new members, maybe we could look and see what our schedule does for the next year that would fit everybody, to make sure that we look for a time that works for everybody that's been accepted onto the commission.
And I should say that there's no, our meeting date or time is not written in stone. There's no mandate that we meet at any specific time or place. And so it is wide open in terms of, we're not restricted to any particular time frame by charter or statute. So I'd like to get feedback from the rest of you on this.
May I just say, I would request that we move from the 4th Thursday, so that, but otherwise that's the only request that I have.
Okay. And then also, if there's something, well, like this time we had to change the 4th Thursday because it was Thanksgiving. You know, so there may be, I don't know if there's going to, if something comes up and there's some major thing going, might have to have flexibility with that. But generally we set our meeting and hope to keep to that. So, okay.
Well, maybe we could start with, are there known conflicts that people have on their schedules that we need to know about?
Scott had his hand up.
Yeah.
Before.
One thing is, if we did Thursday, we wouldn't have to worry about Thanksgiving anymore. That's just an idea.
Okay.
I'm very flexible, so it's of no big consequence to me.
Okay, the third Thursday is the committee members, the hospital board has already set its schedule for the next year, and they are still keeping, they're the last Thursday, but because of the holiday in November, they go to the 3rd Thursday. So I'm pumped to do the 3rd Thursday. That would be great, but there are a couple of months, there's also a conflict in March, because the hospital board tries not to conflict with the spring break, if there is a spring break next year.
Yeah, it is here.
I know, Scott, it's a question, it is a joke, I know it. We should have had Ron to put that in with their jokes. You know, what is the school calendar, right?
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind, would we be able to look at another night? I know we really want to.
Second Thursday, whatever, doesn't matter.
Well, I know we want to stay away from Tuesday because that's a council night, and we're looking at different kinds of interaction with the council next year. So I don't know. I'm pretty open, even if we wanted to do them during the day, and I don't care when we do, but the end of the month Thursdays would be conflicts for me, and I would greatly appreciate any help on that. Greatly appreciate it.
Scott, did you say the second Thursday?
Yeah, anyone. I mean, Thursdays might work out better for people because Tuesdays is the council, and I think Wednesdays are sort of reserved for other things traditionally, like church and some school stuff. I don't know. So,
What about Mondays?
Mondays are good.
Because it looks like we still have a problem with at least 2 Thursdays. So it would be nice if we had a night where we didn't have nobody would have to worry about missing anything or rescheduling anything. Are Mondays okay for people?
Do we have
Work
any
for me.
Monday holidays? Are there any Monday holidays in our January, May,
Yeah.
July, because Monday holidays could be tricky.
Did somebody have issues with the second Thursday? Lance, you said something about that some people had trouble with it. Is there some conflict with the second Thursday?
Maybe I think I misunderstood that. I think it was the third Wednesday or third Thursday, but
Yeah.
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
the
Well,
second, maybe there's no problem with the second.
Seconds, okay.
Is everybody good on the second Thursday as far as they know?
Yep.
And then what months are they in? January?
January,
Yeah,
March,
January.
May, July, September, November. There's 6 meetings, odd months.
Odd months?
Yes.
So keep that. That's okay with me?
May, July, September, and November. Okay. That's fine with me. And if
All right.
somebody has an issue, we'll get excused from there. But, not every meeting. We can't. Okay.
So the second Thursday of each odd month, is that what we've agreed on here?
Time, Lance? Time
Yep.
stay okay?
6 o'clock? Okay.
6 o'clock time frame. Is that agreeable to everyone?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's
I
okay
don't
with
think
me.
we need a motion.
Yeah, I'd prefer if we had a motion, please.
I'll move
All right.
that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, moved in second that we charter meet on the second Thursday of each odd month, beginning with the month of January, and then every other month throughout the year at 6 o'clock p.m. Any discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no.
Thank you very much everyone, for
Very good.
helping me out on that. Greatly appreciate it. I promise. No vacations, no COVID, nothing. We had everyone.
All right. Okay, we've eliminated F from new business. G, received, as I think all the Charter Commission members did, a letter from the city attorney to the Charter Commission, raises some issues with regard to complaints concerning myself and Scott Oney in it. So I thought that I would recuse myself as the chair on this. And Judy, I think as you were, I think one of the people mentioned in the letter, I thought maybe we should have somebody other than either a complainant or respondent on this matter. So I asked Jim Pritchard if he'd be willing to assume the chair for purposes of this discussion. Anyone have any objection to that? Cece?
Are we doing an open meeting, or are we
Well,
deciding?
that's one of the things we'll discuss. Right now,
Okay.
I just want to take care of who will lead this discussion. And so
Okay.
I'm proposing that be Jim Pritchard.
Okay.
And if no objection, Jim, I'll turn it over to you.
Is it too late for me to object?
Yes.
All right. Cece, maybe we could just lead off with your question as to whether we want this to be an open meeting or not. My understanding is this is an open meeting now. If we head into a free-ranging discussion on this, there's confidential information out there that may be coming into the public view. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. I learned a lot just reading the attorney's memo. But I'm not sure if that's a wise course of action.
No,
Anyone have
is there
thoughts
a
on
way
that?
to suggest that we set up a closed meeting, and then I don't know the procedures for setting up a closed meeting. Does there have to be notice? What can we just say we're going into a closed meeting now, or is this something that has to be set, say we're going closed and then do it later? I don't know. Ben, no?
Yeah, Ben, please.
Thank you. I would say if you're interested in going into a closed session, I think that is advisable to do that at another date. I could work with our attorney. They have, you know, the right statutory language to reference, and they often do like a kind of a procedure list that we give the mayor as chair and then the council people to see like what you have to do depending on what type of closed session under state statutes. You know, most of them don't require that they be recorded, but some do. So, and I didn't talk to the attorney about the process related to this issue if you chose to do that under this one. So my thought would be is if you're interested in that, we could, you know, have them help prepare that and set up a special meeting for you to do that.
The one thing that, as I was reading through this and without going into any of the information, just the general legal perspective on this, there's not, because of the unique nature of the Charter Commission, there's not a lot that they can tell us to do or that we can tell anyone to do. A lot of suggestions were laid out. One of them was, he was saying at the lowest level, or his descriptor, not mine, was to just have individual members have direct communications with the members that they're having differences with. I don't know if that's an option for the people involved, if that could possibly, you know, resolve a lot of the issues here without needing to go through the formality of a closed meeting. I wonder if that would be a possibility.
I would feel comfortable with a closed meeting. I think because everybody received that, which was a not quite surprise, but it sort of was a surprise. So everybody received it. So I'm for going to a closed meeting, so this can be discussed as long as everybody has read it. So, and then decide from there if there's ways to do it. And that might be between the people involved, sort of involved, or the whole commission. But because everybody saw it, I think we should go. I would recommend going into a closed meeting to not, I don't know, discuss it, look at it, read it, something like that. That's what I think. I know it's up to the rest of you.
Any other thoughts from anyone or discussion?
So Lance, are you recusing yourself from this discussion? Because then would that mean that I also must recuse myself?
No, I just didn't want to.
And I'm also recused, so.
Pardon me, Scott? Wait,
I'm
Lance.
also recused, I'll say that much, but I'm not participating other than that.
So
Yeah.
What? What?
Anyway, I feel like I could participate in the discussion. I guess I would point out that the commission, I think, also has the option, in my mind at least, to have the closed meeting without Scott or I present. I mean, I think that's a decision you can also make. But I mean, I'm certainly not asking for that, but I think I should point out that sometimes it's advisable to do that, I know, in other situations, but I just want everybody to be aware that that's a possibility. but I'm happy participating in the meeting as well.
Yes.
Is there anyone who would not be comfortable going with the closed meeting and participating in it? Scott, you'd rather not?
I would participate in an open meeting or not attend a closed one. It's fine. You guys want to talk about stuff, you would probably feel more comfortable, so that sounds good.
So tell me what you're thinking, Scott. I didn't understand, please. Sorry.
If there was a closed meeting, I would probably not go, and then you could feel free to talk about whatever you want.
Jim, do we need a motion to go into a closed meeting?
I think so. I guess my thought, does anyone have a preference as to whether or not Scott is in the meeting? Should the meeting be open to all, or should it not?
Oh, it should be open to all, and if someone chooses not to come, that's their choice, but it should be open to the whole thing. That's my point of view.
Well, I would entertain a motion then that we set up a closed meeting that would be open to all the members of the commission to discuss the matters that appeared in the memorandum from the city attorney.
So moved.
So moved.
Any
Second.
discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there was a second I heard.
Yes.
Any discussion on that?
There is a second, right?
Yeah.
Jim?
Yes.
And who made the motion? Who made the motion?
I did.
Who did?
Who did?
I can't tell who- Hold up your hand, whoever made the motion.
Can you see me?
Oh.
Oh,
I
I
Jack.
did.
Okay,
Yeah, it was me.
okay. Thanks.
Sorry.
And who seconded?
I did.
Lance did, okay.
I think Lance did. Yeah.
Any discussion?
And my understanding, the discussion would be that Ben would work with you, Jim. Get my fingers out. Ben would work with you and the attorney to set up whatever is the process for doing that. Is that correct?
That could be part of it. I guess another question would be whether we'd want to have, an attorney brought in on that. Obviously, this is not a pro bono endeavor from the attorney.
Jim, this is Ben. I would request, I don't know if you can see me or not.
I can.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're okay with me to speak? I just want to make sure you're.
Yes, go ahead, Ben.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I would be happy to help coordinate that with Jim, and then we'd certainly be sharing out with the group so you understand in writing what the process is, so everybody coming in would understand. There's as a public entity, there's specific statutes that would need to be identified to go into closed session, and then there's kind of a procedure to follow. He would help. They would help with guide with that. I'd leave it to your discretion if you were interested in. Mr. Fitzsimmons, I think it was from him, wasn't it, or David? If you want them to be there available in case there's questions, that would be because of just the issue and it's a little more technical. I would be happy to have them at the city's cost be there and ask questions. If you would rather not, that would be fine too. So I would leave it to you either way on that one, but we would at a minimum give you the detail on how to go in the closed session. And I don't think we have to have the attorney there in order to do that. But we can ask them and you wouldn't have to worry about costs if that's of interest. Just again, it's a unique situation. So
if we had the meeting and we decided we didn't need the attorney there, but we could still, if we came away from the meeting with questions for the attorney, we could still do that. if they weren't there. So we would have the option of having them there or asking them questions after we've discussed it, correct? Ben?
I think that's correct. The only thing is I didn't do prep in advance is if the ability to go into closed session relates to attorney-client privilege, we might need to have the attorney there in order to be able to go into a closed session. Because again, public meetings can only be closed for very specific reason, and attorney-client privilege is one of them. So we might need the attorney there. Ultimately, you can take or leave the counsel that is provided to you by the attorney that's present, right? So you as a board still have your own independent discretion, regardless of what the attorney might or might not advise to you. But the memo is probably an indication that there's a whole host of kind of just things to consider, and it was kind of left to you on how to approach that.
Okay. So did we have, this is discussion on the motion, isn't it? We haven't
Yeah, we're
voted.
discussing the motion. The motion is that we have a meeting open to, a closed meeting, open to all the members.
And then we would vote on that, and then Jim, you would work with Ben to do this, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And I guess what we would do is we would set up something. We could either go ahead with the format that the two of us decide upon, or we could bring it back to the commission and have you, I suppose, up or down it.
I would be comfortable with you and the attorney coming up with the format for it. At least I would. That would, others can say whatever they want, and then because we don't want this to drag out. You know, I think we just need to do it, talk about it, and deal with it. So.
Any other discussion or questions? Well, in the absence of none, all in favor of proceeding towards a closed meeting, say aye.
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 All opposed? Looks like the motion carries.
Could you give me the list of people who voted yes?
I think everybody did.
I think everyone did.
I didn't vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, didn't hear. I did not hear
I
that.
didn't vote.
Scott abstained. Did anyone else abstain?
Okay.
Okay, well, with that, I'll turn the discussion back to the chairman.
Thank you, Jim. See no other items on the agenda. Is there anything else that any of the members want to bring to the attention of the commission before we adjourn? All right, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I moved. Oh, I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Very good. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody, and have a great holiday.
Thanks.
Guys.
Two.